Hey, John Mayfield with Global Real Estate School. We are looking at 11 important sections you need to know to pass the real estate exam. And we're on part 2 today. And the third important section you need to know about, of course, is appraisal and valuation. Pretty big chapter in my school, but here are some parts I think you need to know about appraisal and valuation. We're going to have 3 different types of appraisals we will look at. And the first one is sometimes referred to as a couple of different types of appraisals. You could see it as a sales comparison appraisal, sales comparison appraisal. You could also see it referred to as the market data approach. And you could maybe see it as something else, but normally market data or sales comparison. And here's what you need to know. It's ideal for residential type properties, okay? The neat thing about the sales comparison approach, and it's going to be an approach you will be using as a real estate professional, we tend to call it the CMA, the competitive market analysis or comparison market analysis. And that's going to be an exam question right there. So what do you use? You're using a CMA. You're comparing recently sold properties to the subject property. And so the sales comparison, market data comparison, it's ideal for residential type properties. So remember that, very important there. The second type of appraisal we will normally look at or see is what is ideal for special purpose type, SPECIAL. Gosh, I'm special purpose type properties. And special purpose type properties would be things like schools or churches or hospitals. I did a video for my Global Real Estate School where we talk about appraisals, and I actually do a video, and there's a hospital behind me and there's an apartment complex over to the side, and I shot that video. Yes, that's right. You just don't read and click your mouse at Global Real Estate School. I have lots of videos to help you learn the material, but you can see the hospital behind me, and I make note, we can't use the sales comparison or the market data comparison approach for that, can we? Because you need comparable properties. What's recently sold similar to our property? With the hospital, we're going to have to do what is called the cost approach. And the cost approach basically just takes that property and builds it as if it were new, and there's several approaches you could use for that, depreciates the property because after all, it's not brand new anymore, is it? And then it adds the value of the land back in. So cost approach is ideal for special purpose type properties that do not have a lot of comps, but it's also ideal for brand new properties because there's not a lot of depreciation, so you can get a little bit more accurate there. That's the cost approach. Special purpose type properties, new homes. The market data comparison or sales comparison or the direct market comparison, there's all kinds of names for it. That is comparing your subject property, the property under valuation, with other similar properties like that property. And there's key characteristics about that market data sales comparison. Those properties need to be of the similar type property. I mean, you wouldn't want to use a 2-story home as one of your comparables if your subject property was a 1-story or a ranch home. Does that make sense? So you need similar type properties. They need to be close or in the same vicinity because naturally you don't want to try to take a property that's located way over in another market area because prices are different there. So they have to be within similar market range or area. A lot of times lenders want those comps to be within a 1-mile radius, and they need to be within a certain time frame. Sometimes they have to be 6 months or less. In my area where it's rural and not a lot of sales, sometimes that can be challenging and difficult. So similar type properties within the same area and within a certain time period. Those are the types of properties you use for comparable properties for the market data approach. That's why the cost approach is so good for special purpose or unique type properties where you don't have a lot of comparables. You're going to have to rebuild the property or reconstruct it as if it were new, take out the depreciation, and then add the cost of your land back. Remember, we never depreciate land. And there's lots of ways to look at depreciation. We have functional, physical, environmental, or external depreciation. So that's the cost approach, special purpose type properties. And the final one that we talk about is called the income approach. The income approach. And that, just like its name says, is ideal for what? Income producing properties. So a lot of times you will see the income approach used for apartments, shopping malls, those types of properties that you're going to be appraising because they're all about numbers and people want to know more about numbers. And by the way, if you go to our YouTube channel, I just threw that up on the screen there. We've got lots of videos where I walk you through working some of those income producing financial calculations you'll need to know. Some of the types of math problems you need to know for the appraisal section. So be sure and go out there, check it out. We'd love for you to subscribe and give us some good stars as well. So valuation, those are the three properties you're going to need to know. Don't forget that. Now, under number 4 is financing. And my gosh, that's the longest chapter in my book. I've got lots of videos on financing on our website and just want to go through some of the things you need to know. They're going to ask you questions about points. Discount points are what we call prepaid interest. 1 point is equal to 1% of the loan amount. Now, they're going to give you that question on the exam. And here's what I want you to know, because this is what you're going to see. They're going to give you all of this stuff in the problem. I mean, they're going to give you a big, long problem. And then when you read through this, you're going to see that the property has a sales price that is like of 80% of the list price, okay? And somewhere through here, they're going to tell you the list price is equal to $100,000. So if the sales price is equal to 80% of the list price, then it's selling for $80,000, right? And through here, they might tell you that the buyer's getting 90% LTV. This is the way they like to word these up, just to get you confused. So we do our T problem, and I have lots of these on our website. Remember, part, total, percent. And so we do our T problem. If they're buying the home for $80,000 and they're getting a 90% LTV, that's loan to value ratio, we're going to move our decimal over. So our math tells us, and I'm using a different pen here, but I want to switch colors. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. I want to do red. So our math tells us to what? Multiply. So 80,000, and I don't even have my calculator here with me, but I'm going to grab it very quickly. And we're to multiply, so 80,000 times 0.90 gives us the answer of 72,000. That is the loan amount. Now, if they say in the problem, as you read through all of this, that there are 2 discount points, how much did they pay in discount points? Well, remember, discount points, as I mentioned earlier, equal one point is equal to 1% of the loan amount. You're going to see this on the exam question, on the exam, so you need to know this. So so we go back over here, there's 2 discount points. We're actually just working another T problem. And this time, we know what the loan amount is, right? Was it 72,000? Yep. And we put our mathematical, and this time we're at 2%. We move the decimal over. Well, we're going to have to put a 0 out there. I like to convert, so we don't have a 0 there, so we've got to put a 0. So 0.02. Our math tells us to multiply. We're solving for the discount points. I need to put in. And so 72,000 times 0.02 equals $1,440. That would be the total discount points. Whew, there you go. You're going to see that on the exam, I can tell you that. Here's what you have to remember. A discount point, 1 point is equal to 1% of the loan amount. And so just trust me, they're going to try to suck you in to grabbing the bait and the hook, line, sinker. Is that what you say is if you're fishing? I always wanted to be a good fisherman, but I never did fish much. Maybe I'll do that when I retire. I like to play golf, but hook, line, sinker, and all. They're going to try to get you to figure those discount points on the sales price, but you're going to be sitting there that day at the real estate exam because you're going to pass it on the first try, and you're going to say, no, 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 no. John, the person I watch at Global Real Estate School's YouTube channel, told me, do not figure those discount points on the sales price, figure them on the loan amount. And so when you do that, you're going to get that question right. And the answer is, again, $1,440. Just wanted to double check. But that is a question you're going to need to know. They're going to ask you some questions about interest and PI, TI. I have some great math questions on that YouTube channel. Go over there and check those out. And then also they're going to talk about different types of loans, or they're going to get into FHA and VA. I did some great exam videos where we kind of dug into VA and FHA and some of those, but you're going to need to know things about VA and FHA and the difference, between the two. Remember that VA guarantees the loan, where FHA insures the loan. And remember the fact that you go to an FHA insured lender to get your loan. So know the difference between those, rule development. They have actually lots of different types of loans. They may ask you about what's a bridge loan. A bridge loan is when you use another piece of property as collateral. So a bridge loan would be, I'm here in my home office downstairs. If I wanted to use the equity in this home to purchase another home, then I could just put this up as collateral to buy the other property, and that's bridging the two together. And so lots of different types of loans. And by the way, we have some digital flashcards. I love these because you can download them to your phone, and they work right on your mobile phone. And a lot of times when you have some of this downtime, you can just pull that up, go through, look at some of those definitions, and you'll be able to remember and understand what a graduated payment loan is, or a partially amortized loan, which is also a balloon loan, and a growing equity mortgage where the loan starts out small and that's a graduated payment. It keeps going up. So lots of those types of loans you're going to look at, and they're going to get into some of the RESPA, equal credit opportunity, debt to equity ratios. I would go to my channel and just search for some of those. We're putting them on playlist. I think you can find them there, but you really need to dig into those and know those specific areas, because there's going to be a lot of questions over financing. And then number 5 is going to be over general principles of agency. Lots of agency stuff. Yes, I can sound like a broken record and say, go to my YouTube channel and check some of those out. But here's some of the agency items I want you to understand. For the exam, understand and know the difference between a general agent and a special agent. General agent's going to have a little bit more duties, okay? Special agent is what we are as real estate professionals. One specific or special purpose. You list your property with me, and then I need to sell that property for you. And when I sell that property, the agency relationship's over with, okay? You could have other types of agencies like a universal agency, which is a full power of attorney, another type of agency that could be out there. So understand the different types of agencies, and I want you to be sure and understand the fact that to have an agency, you have to have a written contract. And an agency can be not only an agency between a seller and a broker, which we call a listing agreement or a seller's agency, but you could have a buyer's agency too, where it's between the broker and the buyer. Now, you need a written contract for that, okay? And it also can be between a landlord and a property manager, or a property manager and a tenant, if it's a tenant agency where you're helping someone find a place to lease. But here's what I want you to know about all of this. Has to be in writing. That agreement creates an agency, which creates what we call a fiduciary obligation between you and your client. And that's one of the things I want you to understand. When you enter into a written agreement with the other party, we call that a client-principal relationship. And that's when an agency has been created, which creates the fiduciary obligation. And we remember that through COLD, C-O-A-L-D, care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and disclosure. You owe all of those to your client. And really don't make that challenging. Just read through that. And if there's something that needs you read that and you say, well, yeah, I need to disclose that to my client, then you know there's an agency relationship, and who do you represent in that situation. The other item I want you to know, they love to try to trip you up here. Listing agreements, whether it's and buyer agency agreements, are between the client, that would be the seller or the buyer, depending on the type agency agreement you have, between the client and the broker, not the salesperson. Let me repeat that. The agency agreement is between the client, which could be the seller, buyer, landlord, tenant, and the broker, not you, the agent. So what if you leave the company? Are you entitled to take that client with you if their listing agreement or buyer's agency agreement has not expired? And the answer is no. Why? Because that agreement is between the broker and the client, not the salesperson. You will see a question, maybe 2 or 3, to try to test you if you're picking up what should happen under that story they give you. And when you read that story and you read that poor little agent who worked so hard to get that listing, and they're such good friends, and they were in their wedding and everything else, and they decided to leave the brokerage, can they take that little one listing agreement with them? No. Why? Because those agreements are between the broker and the client, not the agent. And you will see that on the exam, so make sure you do not miss that. So we talked about responsibilities, talks about termination of an agency. How's it created? Through a written agreement. You can have some implied agency agreements, but I think you'll be fine on those. And I think you're going to be able to know how it's terminated when it sells, when it expires, if the client dies, okay, or the broker dies, or one of them just disappear, that could terminate it. But you'll be fine on those. And then section 6, and we're going to wrap this part 2 of our 11 sections you need to know for the real estate examination. The 6th section that we're going to talk about is property disclosures. Now, material facts versus defect disclosures, a latent defect. A latent defect, and that's been on the exam, is a defect that cannot be seen through a normal inspection, okay? Normal previewing of the property, you couldn't see that. The seller might know about that because they know it's there, right? I know that up inside the tiles here in my basement, there's not that happen. I'm just giving you an example. But there was a leak or a fire and there's smoldered or whatever, and that hasn't happened here. I'm just using it as an example. You don't see this in a normal inspection, do you? An inspector would have to get up there and look, or I would have to tell you about that. Now, keep in mind, if I'm an agent and you tell me about it, that's a material fact, and I need to make sure that gets disclosed and everybody knows about that, because that's a material defect. What if I read your seller's disclosure and you told me about that, but you don't mention anything about it? Well, you're going to have to go and talk to the client about that and make sure they correct that or fix that. The other item under 6, we got property conditions, environmental issues. I definitely want you to go out, and I know you might be tired of me putting this on the screen, but I'm going to put it on here one more time for you. My YouTube channel, there we go. Because I did a series of videos that you really need to watch, where I get into some of those topics that are here under property disclosures. Environmental, we get into lead-based paint, and there's some great videos, and I tell you in those videos where you can go to find out, to take those quizzes. And so check those out. We'll try to put that as an end card, so that'll take you over and you can watch some of those videos as well. And then we're going to come back and do another video, which will be part 3, 11 sections you need to know to pass a real estate examination. Well, as always, I want to say thank you so much for joining, and appreciate all of your kind feedback. Appreciate you subscribing to our web channel, our YouTube channel. Go over to Global Real Estate School. I have a great tool called My Real Estate Exam Coach. They are short coaching videos. There's questions, there's topics, and it's mobile friendly. So you can take it on your phone, study at lunch. You're going to do awesome as a real estate sales professional. And I want you to know I'm here to not only help you pass the exam on the first attempt, I want to help you become a real estate rock star. So globalrealestateschool.com. We want to be your #1 source for real estate education. Check us out. Tell others about us. Share us on your social media. And more importantly than anything else, go out and make it a great day, and check out our next video. I think you'll like it as well too. Thank you.